How y'all doing? Daniel Gaines here. Want to get into a little bit real quick, show a little bit, uh, give a little more information on everything, let everybody see, you know what I'm saying? Just to show what actually is going on and some of the corruption and criminality that actually is allowed to take place in all this bullshit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all some of the documents that I have that more than show where everything was done criminally, illegally, without jurisdiction, without due process, and everything else. So, without further ado, let's go ahead. First one we're going to pull up. I mean, most of these, all the way down to like 24, I think it is, are all from 2004. I mean, we can keep going. And this is just one file, one folder. There's multiple, but let's get into this. All right. Declaration in support of out-of-state service. This is where, and as you can see, 2014 or 2004, January 14th, case number. Y'all have seen before. All right. Now, here's what I want y'all to see. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. See, it states that respondent cannot be served within the state of Washington because, notice how she left that blank. Intentionally left it blank, did not put anything. The reason I'm showing you this is because she left this blank. What could she have put in there? The reason respondent cannot be served within the state of Washington because he's not a resident of the state. That's the only thing she could have put, which instead of her being honest, she decided to just knowingly avoid this, which in and of itself wouldn't be such a big issue. However, as you can see, date, case number, everything else. This is an ex parte restraining order, right? Right here's what I want y'all to see. Daniel Gaines going onto the ground or entering the party's shared residence. She says it's hers and Melissa Roth's, which it's not. Me and her and our daughter live there. The address is which is 178 Marsh Street, Thibodaux, Louisiana. Melissa Roth is a resident and was a resident at the time of Pierce County, University Place, Washington. And I'll prove that in a little bit because actually this address here is Melissa Roth's address. So this is knowingly false and everything else, but that is actually the address, Juliet's address. So she even puts in here that that's the address, our address. So she puts in her documents that out of state, right? That we lived out of state. And then this is one of the bullshit claims she makes. Without being able to show any proof or anything else, just something made up on the spot. I took the phone from her on 2 occasions, grabbed her arms, wouldn't let her leave against her will, broke my phone when she was trying to call for help, which she cites in a Washington law, right? A Washington law gets cited for this, okay? The problem is, at the time she's claiming that this happened, which it's a false claim, it's a bullshit lie, but at the time she's claiming this happened, we lived in the state of Louisiana. So what fucking purpose would any RCW have? It wouldn't even be valid in that state. It didn't happen there. But it's all bullshit lies anyway. And then that's why that's important. I declare under penalty of perjury, under the laws of the state of Washington, that the foregoing is true and correct. Signed by her. Knowingly false. Signed. But it accurately does list the address as being in Louisiana. Right here. 178 Marsh Street, Thibodaux, Louisiana, 70301. But let's keep going. Again, date, case number, cause number, however you want to phrase it. This one again, she puts her address as Melissa Ross' address. Oh, and I'm looking for it. And well, that part of it is the fact that she made sure to include our daughter. But as I've already shown and stated, during the time she was in Washington doing all this, where was Faith? Where was she during all this time, Juliet? Be real, be honest. You know, I've got pictures to prove it. Faith was with me while Juliet's claiming she needs to be protected. Very interesting, is it not? I mean, it kind of makes you wonder, you know what I'm saying, if it's all true, and I was such a monster and blah, 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 why was Faith with me the entire time you're making all these bullshit claims? Now, one of the important documents, and it's going to be vital to their defense in the federal action and everything else, which they cannot get around at all. Melissa Roth is a resident, well, at the time, still is, at the time was a resident of the state of Louisiana. This right here says I was served all this bullshit. Child support, financial documents, declaration, a financial declaration, a summons, parenting plan, child support order, all that shit, right? Here's where she says I was served at. 178 Mars Street in Thibodaux, Louisiana. That's where I was supposedly served at. Okay, now let's see who served this. Melissa Ann Roth. She had to fly down there, so clearly that wasn't Melissa Roth's address. If I was served there, and Melissa Roth had to fly down there because she wasn't in her home state. Now, the reason this is vital is because who's the respondent in the case? Okay, respondent, Daniel Eugene Gaines. That's me. That's this ugly motherfucker right here. Daniel Eugene Gaines. That's me. And I don't know how familiar y'all are with due process under the 14th Amendment with service laws and requirements and everything else. According to due process and all the case law and case precedent in every state and everything else that relates to it. One second, let me get a drink. Yeah, I'm drinking my soda right out the bottle. I'm the only one who drinks it, so screw it, why not? I've been drinking water all day and I feel like soda. Anyway, respondent, if the respondent is in a different state or in a different country or whatever the case may be, service laws where the respondent lives must be complied with. Not the state laws that it's filed in unless both parties live in the same state. Since she's claiming she lived in Washington whenever she actually lived in Louisiana, and I was served allegedly in Louisiana, that means Louisiana service laws must be complied with, not Washington service laws. They try to make the claim in court that Washington service load. The problem is, respondent lives in Louisiana. Now, for those of you who are wondering, and since Juliet and Faith and all of them will be watching this video, well, here's why that's important. If you go back and look at 2004, which is allegedly when all this took place, that's the law that is in effect. And fortunately for me, the laws in Louisiana as far as service are still the same as they were in 2004. And those requirements are that In order for service to be proper in the state of Louisiana, it must be done by a parish sheriff or someone who is registered with the courts in the parish that they wish to serve in, and they also must reside in the parish that they wish to serve in. Parish may sound foreign or weird to some of you. Louisiana doesn't have counties. It has what's called parishes. It's the same thing as a county. It's just they call it a parish down there. But you have to live in basically live in the county, the parish you want to serve in, and be registered with the courts. Melissa Roth is a Washington resident residing at that address. Juliet used Melissa Roth's address. Therefore, that could not be valid service. It's an impossibility for the service to be valid. Even by the standards in the state of Washington, service is improper. They just didn't care because it was all done through default because, well, I was never served anything. Never served anything. Period. And again, I can prove it. Here's the fucking proof. Her friend, see, this is the problem with Washington laws. Her friend is the one who allegedly served me. Her friend's allowing her to use a fake address on fucking court documents and everything else, signed under penalty of perjury and all that, knowingly fucking lying through her teeth and lying to the courts and everything else. But yet, it's one of them things that, go ahead. It's one of them things that they're going to say that this can be done. Go ahead. They're going to say that this can be done because in Washington, under the Washington laws, they say that this is valid. They can, that this is satisfactory. I can have my friend, go ahead, Lil. I can have my friend serve you and then sign a document under penalty of perjury that you were served, and it holds up in court even if you were never fucking given a document at all. They claim that this is copacetic and this is good to go and valid and everything else in the state of Washington. So that's one thing that I'm going to ask the federal courts to step in and help them solve that issue because, well, they clearly acted without jurisdiction because, well, again, right here's where I was allegedly served at by a Washington resident, allegedly, when I'm the respondent. But let's go on, because this isn't done yet. I'm going to show you one more. And again, all these are from the same thing. But we got one more I want to show you. This is the financial document. Oh, look, February 2nd is when this was done, right? Less than a month after she filed the other stuff, okay? And I wasn't served when the other stuff was filed. That's when it was filed. I was served after that. This one, this is the financial, oh no, it's not. Is it? Hold on. Oh no. This is the temporary restraining order bullshit that she filed, right? Okay. Now, see, on here she puts me as allegedly being in Illinois. Again, not going to the state of Washington, going to Illinois. And she puts that the property is in Louisiana. If she lives in Washington at the address she claims in the other documents, if she lives in Washington at this address, why is all her property in the state of Louisiana? Just something for y'all to look into. Again, case numbers right there. Y'all have that information. Y'all can check into things. It's all public record. I don't care. I'm going to be showing more and more as I get closer to my federal filing. As I said in comments on the last video when Juliet decided to comment, I don't have a rich daddy who funds me. I have to pay for things myself. And, well, experts for this shit kind of rack up a hefty price, especially whenever you've got to have multiple experts and blah, blah, blah. So the little over 20 grand that I had in my savings is gone. And Not everything's covered. But it's alright, because I'll do a little bullshit GoFundMe to try and get the money. I don't really expect that to go anywhere. I don't even think I'll get a penny from that, if I'm being honest. But either way, just know, Juliet, it's not going to take me long to come up with this. Because realistically, the bulk of the expense is for when it goes to discovery phase, which is after the state's going to try their motion to dismiss and everything else, if they don't try to come at me with a settlement. So the bulk of the expense is months away. That gives me time. I just got to come up with a few grand, roughly about $3,500, to cover the service fees for the 40, 50 or more individuals who are named in this, including you and your daddy. Because, well, you both are. So it's not like it's going to take long anyway. You think I don't have any money? I might mainly live paycheck to paycheck, but it's not like I got to have help paying my bills. It's not like I need somebody to cover my monthly expenses for me. See what I'm saying? My employer, they don't touch my paychecks. They don't give a fuck about that bullshit court order from the state of Washington. And ain't no court here in Missouri going to be able to force them to comply. My boss, well, the beauty of working for a multi-million-dollar a year business is they have lawyers on staff, and those lawyers are taking a look at it, and by Missouri standards, those lawyers are ready. If the state of Missouri ever tries to go after them, they're ready for that fight, because then the business is going to get money from the state without a contract. But 6 years, not a penny gets taken from my checks. Not once ever have they even touched it, have they even tried about it. Got to be doing something, right? Got to know something. But I digress. Where was I? Anyway, it's not a matter of never being able to file because I'll never have the funds. It's a matter of, is it within the next month that y'all get served, or is it 2 or 3 months from now that y'all get served? Go ahead, Lil. Not a matter of if, but a matter of when. So, that being said, if y'all want to help out, you can. If not, don't. I'm cool either way. Like I said, it's still going to happen regardless. It's just a matter of when. The only reason I even bothered putting it out there like that is because there was several people who told me to do so. That a way I can get this done quicker, because they know that the ramifications for this will be far beyond my case, because, well, once my case actually goes to court and gets through the process and everything, once the state loses on appeals and everything else, it won't go any further, I don't think. Well, I think after the appeals loss for the state of Washington at the federal appellate courts, they'll let it go. But that being said, it's going to be one of those things that an awful lot of people are going to be able to take this federal ruling into these state courts and use this against these state actors. Because I don't call out Juliet so much in this action. See, that's where Juliet's conflicting things. Go ahead, Lil. Sorry, special needs daughter. Go ahead, honey. Turn it off. Go. You can go on. Give me a second, folks. Go ahead. Go. So, it's not so much that I'm going after Juliet. It's, go ahead, Lil. It's that I'm going after the corrupt actors, state actors, the government actors who were the ones that engaged in the deprivation of rights and violations of law and everything else. So, those are the ones I'm going after. Not anybody else, really. I mean, Juliet is a part of it. Her fraud and her lies are a part of it. And that's all going to come up as well. But it's more so the ones who were tasked with protecting my rights and ensuring that the law was complied with, who are the main ones I'm going after. It's about holding these criminals accountable for their actions, and then using this whenever a county, an entire county, a larger county at that in the state, loses damn near every single member of the judiciary at the superior and juvenile level, and they have to bring in outside judges just to be even able to fucking do court daily until they replace the judges, that's when they have to start seriously consider reforming their laws, or at least tightening their allowances for the criminal conduct and the corruption. And that's a big win for a lot of people automatically. So it's about accountability and reform. It's not about anything else. I give a fuck about anything else. Like I said, my bills are paid. I'm not in it for the money. I'll settle this motherfucker if they allow reform. They criminally investigate everybody involved and hold them to account to the fullest extent of the law. Reform the laws in a state, and according to every societal standard, with one exception, I'm an expert on family law, the laws, and everything else. The exception being I just don't have that piece of paper. But by every other standard, I'm an expert. Beyond. Years and years and years beyond. But anyway, I want to be part of the reform, or at least vet the attorneys who are part of it and everything else to ensure that it's done to the best interest of all parties, the parents, fit parents, and the children, because that's who it's about anyways, the parents and the children having a relationship. So long as the state's willing to, even if I'm not a part of it, so long as the state's willing to reform their laws to protect fathers' rights to be fathers, so long as they do the criminal investigations into the corrupt actors, and since the criminal conduct's already proven, it's just a matter of to what extent. It shouldn't be so much a criminal investigation as to an investigation to determine the depth of the criminality. But so long as the investigations are done and reform happens, I'd be willing to settle for $1 in damages. I mean, they're going to pay all legal expenses and all court fees and everything else. Any costs I've incurred, I'm going to be reimbursed for. The stolen monies from child support, I will be reimbursed for. The property of mine that Juliet was allowed to steal, I will be reimbursed for. I'll even be reasonable on the inflation adjustments because, well, this was almost 20 years ago now, so the value of things is a lot higher. Because if you want to face facts, PS2 was still fairly new around the time. I had, it was the latest system out at the time, I believe. I had one, a few memory cards for it. I had a shit ton of games. So the equivalent now would be a PS5 and the same amount of games, or the value of said games. And if you're looking at 75 at least, 60, 65 bucks a pop, tax and all, 65 a piece, tax and all for a new game now. It adds up. But the property that was stolen from me, the monies that were stolen from me, reform, the investigations, all other fees and court fees and everything covered, $1 in damages. I'd agree. Because again, it's about reform. It's about making sure none of these other fucking men have to go through this shit. It's about making sure all these other fucking fathers who are only guilty of wanting to be a part of their kids' lives don't get screwed over and victimized and basically extorted and robbed simply because they want to be a dad. Nah, I'm sorry. I'm done playing that game. I'm done with that bullshit from y'all. So, reform is the name of the game. And if the state doesn't want to settle for reform and it becomes a number, then fine. That dollar amount will be high. I will ensure that the impact to the state's coffers is extensive. And then I will take and I will fund other men's lawsuits at the federal level. I will spend a large percentage of any monies I get into getting candidates elected in states who will change the laws and everything else. So, I mean, either way, it's all about reform. And change is coming. Oh, yes. As far as the state of Washington and my ex-wife goes, well, there's a storm coming. It's just a matter of when. Not if, but when. None of you will be able to avoid it. None of you will be immune from it. None of you will be sheltered from it or cleared from it. And Juliet, you can bail the state of Washington if your criminal matter's done and everything else, all you wish. I guarantee you, your daddy's the one that throws you under the bus and where I could serve you. Because your daddy's not going to take too kindly to himself getting sued in the federal courts because he agreed to lie for you and he's facing what could potentially end up landing him in jail. You think he's not going to give your whereabouts up so that way you can be served the documents to have to deal with this as well? I don't see your daddy doing that. Not whenever you're about to cost him everything because, well, he was stupid enough to lie for you on court documents and on record. And again, it's amazing what I can prove. Y'all seen the first part of the video where I showed the state lacked jurisdiction to touch this. There's no proof of service, valid proof of service, which means that it was all done in a complete lack of due process, 14th Amendment protections. So, you decide for yourself. Am I making it up because I'm bitter or because I don't want to pay child support? Is Juliet telling the truth that I chose to not be a part of my daughter's life? Well, it's up to you to decide. But I mean, people who tell the truth don't have to change their stories. Y'all have seen the documents. Y'all see it with your own eyes. Y'all have seen the court hearings. Y'all have heard the shit she said just to turn around and or have a document filed previously that's the exact opposite, or to turn around later and make the exact opposite statement or anything else. And just wait till I start showing some of this other shit. In fact, this week, I'll show y'all the bullshit restraining order she just recently attempted. I'll show y'all the evidence, quote unquote, that she filed the day of the hearing. Both times, in fact, both hearing dates before it was reset the first time. Continued the first time because I wasn't served. Right, literally within a half hour before the hearing, she filed evidence. Within literally 10 minutes of the hearing this time, she filed evidence, trying to use it. And it was forged evidence. We'll get into that later this week. I'll show you. Y'all love this. I'll also show you where she accuses me of claiming I'm going to kidnap Faith, who will be 18 next week, via text. And then I'll show you the text messages where she claims I said where she mentions kidnapping, and I reply with, I never said anything about kidnapping, to which her exact response is, I know you didn't say it, I did. Meaning her. She knows I didn't say it, she said it. So something she said, she accuses me of, knowing I never said it, and then puts it in a court document signed under penalty of perjury. She also claimed I sent her a picture of her yard via text, but couldn't produce the text. I'll show that the hearing's already on the video. I'll show you the actual filing later this week. But until then, y'all have a good one. Love y'all. Peace.